It's Power Hour LSU.
Man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter.
Yeah, let's, oh my goodness gracious, number one portal class in the country, go! Give me your best, let's go. They said it couldn't be done, but Lane Kiffin has got it done with Mr. Sam Leavitt. I understand my phone's been blowing up. Carter, Tennessee, this very well could be the Volunteers quarterback, but Pete Nakos just reported that even though a contract is not signed, it is pretty much locked in that Sam Leavitt is going to be your quarterback for next season. But as excited as I am about Sam Leavitt, I understand the quarterback position is more important than what we are about to talk about here with Kaden Durham. But Leavitt, of course, is a player we're starting to get to know. Kaden Durham is a player that we do know, and he is going into his prime season, year 3. And are you kidding me? What did I say a few weeks ago? Don't put it past Kaden Durham coming back to Baton Rouge. I am all the way turned up. Let's go. I understand the offensive line might be Swiss cheese, but that's the growing pains of a brand new coaching staff and a brand new offensive line coach. And look, Devin Harper, are you kidding me? Calvary Baptist, stand up. North Louisiana, stand up. I just was at the Shreveport Card Show, and a lot of PHLers came out. Stand up. Are you kidding me? He was a big-time offensive line commitment that ended up going to Ole Miss, and now he is in the portal. Could that be another offensive lineman that LSU brings on over? So we're going to talk about all that tonight, but the biggest thing is that Lane Kiffin has this shite under control, baby, and you should be excited about next season now that LSU doesn't have just one, but 2 quarterbacks. And the biggest thing that I like about today, and the biggest thing that I learned from watching the NFL over the weekend, watching some old school highlight tapes of a guy like Hassan Longstreet and so on, you really do need some mobility at the quarterback position to get you out of trouble. And we go from having one of the least athletic quarterback rooms to now having quarterbacks that are in your room that can truly make things happen with both their arms and their legs, right? And notice I said arms. Yes, it's an arms race, this quarterback battle between Landon Clark and who might be the QB3. Might be Landon Clark going up against Sam Leavitt, because Sam Leavitt, of course, probably won't be fully available for spring, which means Landon Clark from Elon is going to be getting a lot of the first-team reps. You never know with the Lane Kiffin quarterback. You really, really, really don't know. Remember a few years ago, we thought, hey, why would Spencer Sanders go from Oklahoma State to join our quarterback room with Jackson Dart? Spencer Sanders is probably going to be the guy, right? No, it was Jackson Dart. So you never know with the Lane Kiffin quarterback room. You never know with any college quarterback room. And I will also say this to the Tennessee fans that follow me on Power Hour SEC. I actually think this was probably a good thing for you too. Not that I don't think Sam Leavitt is a good quarterback, but you don't know what's going to happen with Joey Aguilar. And I'm going to be honest, there's a Tennessee quarterback by the name of George McIntyre. And look, I even reached out to the ratings company that actually rates these quarterbacks. George McIntyre was a 5-star, and his recruiting ranking actually toppled down to like a outside the top 100 4-star. And I was like, what the hell? George McIntyre is fantastic, but he's sunk in the ratings. He might be Tennessee's guy next year. So George McIntyre is really good. I don't know why Tennessee doesn't even think about trying to make him their quarterback. They also got Faison Brandon, who we were after, another 5-star quarterback. So if you are a Tennessee fan that does creep over to Power Hour LSU from time to time, I think you're in a good spot with your quarterback room. You also have Josh freaking Heupel. All right, you just do, right? So I understand. I love Lane Kiffin. I love Heupel. I love them pretty equally. I've always kind of went back and forth over which play caller I actually prefer. I actually do prefer Lane. I think his offense is a little less rigid, if you will. But, if you're Tennessee and you're watching this, it's not the end of the world that you weren't able to close the deal. But let's talk about Lane Kiffin. Let's talk about Lane, a little bit of inside baseball, what I'm hearing, how all of this actually transpired. And it all started with last week, right? You had the college basketball game that Mr. Sam Leavitt went to. And the more you think about it, if there is one big winner in all of this, it's not you, the fans. It's not Lane Kiffin. It's not Sam Leavitt. The biggest winner in this whole ordeal is the Supper Club. Because if LSU did not land Sam Leavitt, I do not know if LSU would have ever taken another kid on a visit to the Supper Club. And I still have my thoughts about why the Supper Club is always the first place that we always take people. I've never been. I think it's a fantastic establishment based on what everyone has said. The food is great. But, man, if Sam Leavitt had gone to Tennessee, everyone's going to be like, wait, why do we go to the Supper Club so much when we take these recruits out to visits? Take them to Sammy's. Take them to Pyrane's. Take them to Acme. Take them to Phil's. But goodness gracious, what a great day. What a freaking great day. And shout out to the Supper Club. I'm going to go eat there. If I get a few more super chats tonight. But look, you no longer have to worry about mobility at the quarterback position. You finally have it here, okay? To go from Jaden Daniels to Garrett Nussmeier, who was mostly good in 2024, and then we all know what happened in 2025. It's whiplash, okay? Call me Miles Teller. It was like that. So there you go. Now, I'm going to share a few things I like about Sam Leavitt. I'm going to share some things that I think need improvement. But this is going to be the thing that you need to know. Yes, this was very dramatic. A lot of this was on our end. Imagine if you're Sam Leavitt. Don't you think that viral photo that Hillary Schenk of The Advocate, I love Hillary, she's great. I always butcher her last name. Him looking at his phone, Lane Kiffin sitting right next to him, the DeMond Williams stuff kind of happening beforehand. Sure. There was there were some things that we probably would have preferred done a little bit more smoothly. We probably shouldn't have ever kicked the tires on the DeMond Williams thing. But I'll also say this. In Sam's camp, there was a lot of movement, right? They wanted to get all their visits. They wanted to go get to wherever they can, get the best number, if you will. And I get that. I get that on their end. But part of it is I do think Lane's offense is a good fit for Sam. I've said that repeatedly. I was always, when it comes to this QB market, I was Sorsby 1A, Sam Leavitt 1B. I like Brendan Sorsby a lot, but I like Sam a lot too. But the thing that I think about Sam, based on all the intel that I've received, all the people I've spoken to, one NFL scout, one person in the media that speaks to NFL scouts regularly, the thing that I got the most out of those conversations is Sam is a ferocious competitor. That he does indeed work his arse off. And for me, that means something. Whether or not you believe this to be true, there was rumors out there that we didn't necessarily get that out of the quarterback from last year's team. I don't really care. That's water under the bridge. I'm still a big Garrett Nussmeier fan, as many of you know. But based on the conversations I've had, you don't have to worry about that with Sam. And you guys know I don't like talking a whole lot about competitiveness and how hard you work because it's impossible to quantify that. And only the athlete can really tell if that is true or not. Okay? And when it comes to work ethic, I don't think you need to be the absolute hardest worker. Not everybody has it in them like a Jaden Daniels. Not everybody is psychopathic like a Kobe or a Brady or a Breeze, if you will, where if you get in the way of their pursuit of excellence, they will rip your trachea out of your body. Your spine you'll be like Gumby, or like one of those failing arm things in front of a car dealership. That you don't have to be like that. But based on what I've heard, Sam is actually closer to that side of things. He loves ball. He loves to get after it. He wants to rip your face off when he's out there. And he's not afraid to talk a big game. The thing that I will always remember is everything going into that Arizona State and Texas game was the mighty SEC going up against the higher seeded Arizona State Big 12 team. One big brand, one middle tier brand. One SEC school going up against another school that got the bye, even though Texas was a heavy favorite. But the big story from the Arizona State side of things was Cam Scatterbo. But what was said before the game was Sam Leavitt himself said, hey, I'm the better quarterback in this matchup. Going up against Quinn Ewers, I'm that guy. And Leavitt played fine. He did. Now, what did he do this season? He was mostly fine. He played his best versus the best team that he played on his schedule, which was Texas Tech. And I thought the tape from that game was fine. I really did. I thought the TCU game, which was played right before that one, was really good. We're doing a TCU breakdown for tomorrow night, so go ahead and lock that in your schedule. Instead of doing a live stream tomorrow night, we will do a deep film study on Sam Leavitt. Okay? But the truth is, for me, I do think Sam wanted to be here. I do think, based on the tea leaves, if you will, it was always going to be Sorsby to Texas Tech. And Leavitt was always LSU, probably like 60, 70% chance. And Mestamaker was always going to Oklahoma State. That one was pretty obvious. And a lot of these visits are just to drive the price up. I do think LSU wanted Sorsby. They wouldn't have, done what they did to go after him and make sure the coaching staff was here. Charlie was here. But God, dude, this is going to be a fun offense next year. Your backfield is going to be one of the fastest backfields in the SEC next year. Okay. So really excited about that. When you look at Sam as a prospect, and we're going to get to all your super chats, your questions, all of that. Lane is a ferocious recruiter. Very few in the sport hunt on the trail like he does. I know a lot of Ole Miss fans will trash that, but when it comes to the portal, this is a guy that flew to Knoxville, Tennessee to get the job done. Okay. So obviously it's better to talk about this when there's actual film playing, and so we'll do this tomorrow night. Let's go through a few things with Leavitt. All right. We talked about the competitiveness, all those intangible things. The next thing that I want to get into are the turnovers, right? This is a turnover-adverse quarterback. All right, so last year in limited action, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Of course, with all quarterbacks, there's more interceptable balls that could be out there. But you look at his full season, and once again, this was with Cam Scatterbo. If you look at last year, he was probably the best rookie running back in the NFL. And with Jordan Tyson 2 years ago. So he had the best running back in the NFL draft outside of Genty last year. And then he had the best wide receiver coming up in this NFL draft. 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So over the past 2 seasons, all right, the thing that a lot of us are excited about with Sam is the mobility. All right. What was it? 3 games, 59, or 4 games last year, 59 rushing yards or more. 60 is normally a pretty good number when it comes to rushing yards, because you got to remember sacks go against your rushing yard total. So 60 is normally a pretty high number for a quarterback. To have 4 of those is pretty good. Okay. The thing that a lot of us are excited about is the mobility. But the thing that I like is the turnovers. No picks. You don't have to worry about picks. Now, the Texas Tech game, once again, there was a few more interceptables there, but he's good. Sam Leavitt is a good starting quarterback in the SEC. Well, Carter, what about the step up in competition from Arizona State to the SEC? Well, for one, many in the national media don't think the SEC is as good as it once was. But, I don't worry about the level of competition. I don't. All right, who were the best quarterbacks last year? Well, it was either first-year starters or it was newbies. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not. Let's go to Alexander. Does Leavitt's Mississippi State game concern you? Yeah, it was a tough one. It was a tough one. 10 and 22 for 82 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 41 QBR, 8 rushes, 25 yards. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. It was still very winnable. They had a few red zone snafus in that one. But then again, it's an early season cross-country road game. That's very difficult to handle. Okay. I will always be a little bit more sympathetic to early season starts than middle season starts. All right. And you'll see when you watch my quarterback breakdowns, there were games. So I did, and if you're new here, last week we did a DeMond Williams 1.5 hour long film study that some losers on YouTube took down. Okay, I don't know if it was YouTube. I don't know if it was the powers that be that own the film or whatever, but I did an all 22 breakdown of DeMond Williams. All right. And the game I chose was Oregon. All right. That was a kind of sort of rivalry game. It was a little bit later in the season. Washington was mostly healthy. So I didn't break down Ohio State, which was earlier in the year. All right. So, let's take Arch Manning, for instance. Arch Manning at the beginning of the season, where he had a bad game versus Florida and a bad game versus Ohio State, both in true road environments versus elite defenses, is different than how Arch played versus Texas A&M. So, for me, I value quarterback performances in that October region, which I will share yet again, that I do think the best month in college football is October. I do. I really, really, really do. And I don't think it's close. I think November has become overrated because of the transfer portal, coaching cycles, and all of it. October is a 1 month of college football where teams have chemistry built in. All right, because especially with the portal, you got to have time. You got to give guys time to mesh with their new teammates. And we're not quite into November where the whole conversation's about the playoff. The whole conversation is about this coach got fired, that coach got fired. October is where you can really judge how good a team actually is, in my opinion. It's the most enjoyable time of the year, okay? I think everybody is still locked in by October because most teams play a softer schedule at the beginning of the year. So most teams are still in the playoff. So I value those October games. And what did Sam Leavitt do? All right, Sam Leavitt in October was pretty good. All right, he was pretty good. All right, so TCU, that game was in late September, 27-39, 291, 2 touchdowns, no picks. This is a good TCU team. Then versus Texas Tech, that was, after the bye week, really good. 28-47, 1 touchdown, no picks, and took 4 sacks in both of those games. All right. So now we get to some of the downsides of Leavitt. All right. The first is the injuries. All right. The injuries are something. Okay. There's just no other way around it. So a shaky medical, I don't think it's anything too serious. I would say probably 5 to 6 months from now, he's going to be fully healthy and ready to go. Okay. There's not going to be any quarterback that's bulletproof at this point. All right. There's just not. Okay. Then the second thing is I freaking dislike a quarterback that takes a lot of sacks. All right. And Sam can take a lot of sacks. All right. In each of his last 3 starts, he had at least 3 sacks. And in 4 out of his last 5, he had 3 sacks. Okay. Garrett at his peak was really good at not taking sacks. But why did he take sacks? Well, Arizona State's offensive line wasn't great. You have Raleek Brown, who came over. He was a former receiver and at running back, really good player. Pass protection for him could be an adventure. And it was at times with Scadaboo, to be fair. But offensive line wasn't that great. But we do need to get those sack total numbers down. All right, so the year before, Sam Leavitt's sack numbers weren't as bad at all. He only had 1 3-sack game, and that was against Texas in overtime. So I do think, and he had 1 versus, once again, Texas State, ironically. So we do want to get those down. And a lot of that is offensive line base. I do think sacks are more of a quarterback stat than it is an offensive line stat, but that's a case-by-case basis. So there you go. Let's go to safeguard your soul. JD5 had no problem transitioning talent-wise. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Jaden. The thing that's hard when you compare anyone to Jaden is there's just not any quarterback that is as fast as he is. There was a few in the SEC that come close to his speed or was at their speed this year. All right. So Taylor Green, definitely right there with Jaden when it comes to speed. Same thing with Sellers and Reed as well. All right. What did all 3 of those guys have in common? All 3 of those guys were not great. All right. Green was at times pretty good, but he petered off. Sellers, bad OC, we'll give him that. And then Reed was very good for most of the season and then, filtered off there at the end. Okay. So, Jaden is always a tough guy to compare anyone to. And, the thing that was interesting about Jaden in particular, and I know you're not comparing Leavitt to Jaden, is that it's going to be very hard for Leavitt's offensive line to be as good as Jaden's offensive lines. Okay. And I don't know if we're ever going to have a left tackle as good as Will Campbell. Okay. But to your point, I'm just not worried about it. I can't believe Blake would rather do content with Joe than you. What is that? Kind of random. Love me some Blake Ruffino, my buddy. But yeah, I've had a few of you send me this. What was Moscona wrong about? Tell me. What was he wrong about? I did not watch Moscona this morning. Matt is a friend of mine. But was he wrong about something? Look, if you're in the reporting business, you're going to get some stuff wrong. Okay? You're going to get some stuff wrong. Matt's been really good. At least the reporting I've seen. I follow him. But what was he wrong about? I'm always going to defend, though, my fellow media members. We don't take away from JD5's greatness because he had Neighbors and Thomas. Oh, okay. Talking about the supporting cast. Yeah, and some of that is Leavitt making them good. I think Scadaboo would tell you that. Let's go to General Big Red. Do you think Sam Leavitt is a Jackson Dart with how they play? I don't know. Actually, I was saying I don't know to some of the Moscona things. I'm going to go to your question because I don't get too much into the media thing. I will do this though, all right? Because this has been the topic du jour. Even though we have one of the best NFL weekends of all time. I do feel this topic regarding the Jacksonville Jaguars reporter is one that I am in a very unique position to answer, okay, on a lot of different fronts. So remind me, I will talk about it because I do have a journalism degree and I've sat in press conferences and all of that. And I'm really glad she did what she did, okay, because, it is something to talk about. But do I think Sam Leavitt is like a Jackson Dart with how they play? Yeah, I could see that. The difference is Jackson Dart, when he was in college, was insanely durable. He just did not miss time. And Leavitt has missed time. Injuries are unpredictable, though. Jackson Dart was bulletproof in college. One of the most injury-riddled rookie seasons we have ever seen was this year from Jackson Dart. Okay, so, it's important to keep in mind that you never want to try and get into the injury prediction situation. We want to shoot for upside, and Leavitt was, to me, the second best quarterback in the portal. Now, 247 thought differently. They had him number 1. I hope they're right. I do want to talk about like Dart. Red zone rushing is such a big piece of what Lane wants to do. And pretty much most of the best red zone offenses this year featured QB run game. Pavia, QB run game. Then, of course, the best red zone QB runner is Gunnar Stockton. Dude just knows how to score touchdowns. It is an art form. He is really good at it, okay? And Leavitt's going to have to be good in that area too. Arizona State's red zone operation was rough. In some big spots, okay? Chance we get Hassan Longstreet. I wouldn't be out on Longstreet if I'm LSU. I would not be out. And if I was Longstreet, I wouldn't be out on them either. I wouldn't. Like, if I'm Longstreet and I'm looking at it this way, no one is going – if you're a Longstreet and you wanted to start right now, no one's going to hand you the keys. It's just how it is. You're a year 2 guy that didn't play enough as a year 1 player for someone to hand you the keys of a Power 4 program right now. Now, are there some unproven guys that were handed the keys to some pretty big programs with very limited action? Sure, Bo Pribula got a nice payday, but he played a little bit more at Penn State before he got the keys. Kenny Minchie just got the keys to, a big operation at Kentucky. And Nebraska decided to do the same thing with Kenny Minchie. But he's waited his turn, and there was good reason he wasn't playing. Okay? So for me, I am perfectly fine with Hassan Longstreet saying, look, if I want to maintain and play at the P4 level, I need to understand that I'm not going to be the starter at a P4 level school. Let me go learn under Lane Kiffin and go from there. Okay. I love this comment. Look at the energy of Gulf Coast. Look at this is what I want out of the channel. This is what I want. All right. Let me just. Okay. Let me stop here. Okay. Y'all. Under every live stream, I need you guys to do this. All right. I don't care if the YouTube algorithm hates it. And this will be something that I'll clear with Labor Therapy. They're my partners. But we want to know how you're feeling. So underneath every live stream that I do, give me your best let's go. Tell me how you feel about LSU football, but also tell me how your day was. How are things going in your life? This is a community here. Power Hour LSU. I don't get paid $1 gazillion to do this. I've turned down some corporate jobs just so I could focus on doing this and the NFL channel and all of that. So this is what I'm talking about. What's good, brother? This is what I need. This is what I need. I needed this. So we're, once again, if you're just now joining us, if we do a live, it'll be during the afternoon. I have to have something I have to do tomorrow night. It's also the 1-year anniversary of my father-in-law passing. And you guys got me through that last year. I was really close to him, even though he was an Arkansas fan. I never held that against him. But I appreciate that. I needed this energy. I did. Am I wrong to get my hopes up above average for year one under Lane? I understand we can't have unrealistic expectations, but okay. Yeah, temper your expectations. Yeah, so you look at how this roster looks right now, and you were to go through all the transfers that LSU brought in. All right. The thing that should excite you is that you've brought in 25 transfers up to this point. How many of these transfers would a neutral party consider to be an elite player? Well, Leavitt, I think most neutrals, even if you think Leavitt's kind of shaky with the injuries and how things ended at Arizona State, sure. But I think most would say, yeah, that's a pretty big portal land. I think many would say the same about a guy like Jackson Harris, knowing how productive he was at Hawaii. But is there a Mansour Delane in this crop? No. I can't quite get there, because the first thing I said when I watched Mansour Delane, so Jack Pyburn committed, and this was this was before I had the relationship with the Pyburn family, which is close, but so Pyburn committed. I was like, okay, this is probably the best transfer portal commitment that we've gotten, and I don't think it's going to get that much better or as good as Pyburn, because he was always just not used correctly or just not used enough because Florida's defensive end room was deep. And then when Mansour Delane committed, I was like, yeah, I mean, this guy should have gone to the NFL if he wanted to. He's a third-round pick, second or third-round pick. He was as good as it gets. I mean, and I go through with like every kid that commits. It's going to be really hard for this cycle, but when Delane committed, I was like, all right, this kid interviews like he runs a Fortune 500 company. All right. Then you look at his actual film, ridiculous. I was like, I was like, why is he not going into the NFL draft? And it paid off, right? He's going to be the first corner off the board in next year's NFL draft. So obviously, he wasn't the entire team. We were still a great team. There was a lot of great players on this team, including Jack. And, you know, I've said plenty of times that Halsey was just as valuable as Delane was. But Delane won us some football games that we would not have won. All right. So how many difference that you can a gazillion percent say today? Because I was about there with Delane last year. I was like, this mother effer can flat out play. This dude is special. Of the 25, you probably feel that way about Leavitt, especially considering he plays such a valuable position. But the thing is, when the portal crop is this big, you do have a wider range of outcomes, right? So a guy that I've watched a decent amount up to this point is Jordan Ross. All right, I keep talking about him every live stream. The defensive end, 5-star rating out of Tennessee. You do see some bend. You do see him out there. You know, we referenced Gumby a little bit earlier. Jordan Ross has some of that. All right. I liked him better than Chaz Coleman, who we were also after of Penn State. I like making upside swing plays like that. Put him in there with the defensive end coach like Kevin Peoples, who's done a great job at LSU, turning Braden Swinson into a nice draft pick and then doing what he did, even though he lost Relaford this year. So I think you should be very excited. But, you know, when you get into, hey, what are the real expectations for this next year? It's tough. Now, there's something else that you have to factor in is there's not going to be a lot of people super high on LSU going into next year. And that's what you want. Because going into last year, Nobody was high on Ole Miss. Nobody. I'm going to tell you a little story about what happened with me in the city of Oxford right after this. I actually went to Oxford before last season, okay? Power Hour Network listeners and viewers, you might be consuming this content with that crick in your back that you've been trying to get rid of for so long. Take this as your sign today to book your appointment with LabordTherapy.com. In the Lafayette region, there is no one that you will find that cares more about any different type of pain that you might have than the team at LabordTherapy.com. Book today. Once again, that's LABORDE therapy.com, or you can visit one of their 5 locations all throughout the Lafayette region. Alrighty, don't forget, check out the PHL Patreon as well. All kinds of new extra film studies, patreon.com/LSU football. I'm going to have one actually on Hassan Longstreet coming out tomorrow. All right. That even though we might not get him, there was one throw that he made that was like, wow, this dude is crazy. So I was in Oxford last year for a wedding, and I actually went around to all these Oxford businesses and did a game by game preview for the SEC channel. And I never released it. I had Ole Miss going 8-4, and Lane did wonders with that roster. It is literally one of the better coaching jobs in SEC history. If I were to vote for coach of the year in the SEC, I think Kirby destroyed everybody this past year. But I think Lane was number 2. And Guy did a good job. You know, Walter Nolan is at Ole Miss, to me, was Glenn Dorsey Jr. That's how good that dude was. And he goes in the first round. So you look at the NFL. What was the NFL about? Coaching. The NFL has become a coaching league, right? It's either coaching, you better have an elite coach, or you better have Josh Mother effing Allen. If you got one of those 2 things, you can win. Coaching. And what are most of the coaches in the NFL? Bright offensive minds with youthful energy. What is LSU? Bright offensive minds, youthful energy. Lane's a young 50, and Charlie Weiss, of course, is one of the brightest young stars in the sport. So if you get into, hey, what is it? Is it coaching? Is it the players and all of that? I do think it has shifted more towards coaching. And you can't use Cignetti as an example of this because he's truly like superhuman. But even if you don't include, Cignetti, you look at where a lot of these teams actually are. A lot of it is coaching. And Cristobal's done a great job. Obviously, Lane's done a great job. Kirby's done a great job. So I do think, for me, if you get into those expectations, who are the better coaches in the SEC? Okay. Let's go to Mr. EJ. Ty Benefield can be a difference maker. Why haven't we talked more about Ty Benefield, the safety out of Boise State? Yeah, I like me some Ty Benefield. There are some nuances to the conversation with Benefield. Really fast. Plays his ass off. I mean, this dude plays hard. He is not afraid to set the edge in the run game. In our Ty Benefield film study, we did the whole Notre Dame game. So, pound for pound, Notre Dame was the best offense in college football outside of Indiana and Ole Miss, in my opinion. Benefield was a star in that game. That was actually his highest graded game. And the dude just got in there, set edges. When you play Notre Dame, better be ready. It's going to be Price. It's going to be Jeremiah Love. They're going to be coming at you. And Benefield played a fearless brand of football in that game. Great speed, great versatility, can play deep if you need him to. The biggest thing for him, though, is the tackling. It was an adventure, to say the least. But I like him a lot. I do. I really do. And I was really high on LSU being aggressive, going to get a safety. All right. Take a look at the portal poll question. Grade LSU's portal haul. 81% of you say A. And guess what? The 247 folks agree with you with LSU having the number one portal class. Okay. We've talked so much about Sam Leavitt. We talked so much about expectations. I now want to talk about Kaden Durham. All right. Bold prediction. Kaden Durham leads LSU in rushing next year. I think him and Harlem Berry are both going to be fantastic. I truly think Kaden Durham is great. I really do think so. I am not going to let this season get to me involving Kaden Durham and the vision and all of that. Look, Kaden Durham is going to be going into prime year 3. The thing I like about Kaden Durham is I do think there's a little bit more long speed to his game. You look at what he did. The dude just ripped so many long runs in his first season as a true freshman that were truly breathtakingly good. Whether it was the South Carolina game, which is what we all know him for. But even the start of the South Alabama game, he was playing a different speed. I mean, really think about this as a true freshman. All right? I want you to put yourself in the 2024 shoes of you being an LSU fan. And I promise we're going to get to the super chats and all of that. Looking at you directly. After that South Alabama game, and I understand it was South Alabama, Kaden Durham shared the field with second-round pick, all-time great tight end at LSU, Mason Taylor. Shared the field with the best left tackle ever at LSU, Will Campbell. Shared the field with Gary Nussmeier. Shared the field with Kyron Lacey. But after that South Alabama game, when Kaden Durham was fully healthy, and what we saw a few weeks prior to that versus South Carolina, we were all thinking the same thing. Is Kaden Durham the best player on this offense? And is he the best player on this team? As a true freshman, y'all, as a true freshman, I am simply just not going to forget about that. All right? I'm just not going to. I don't care who you are playing. It is hard to hit home runs. Kaden Durham, long run versus Oklahoma. Kaden Durham, long run versus Alabama. Y'all, it's hard. There's some guys can't do it. And it's not just about speed. All right? Who is the best pure home run hitter in LSU history when it comes to long runs? It's probably Fournette. Had elite speed, but you know who was probably just as talented at doing that? Jeremy Hill. Is Jeremy Hill the fastest back you've ever seen? No. Me and Jeremy used to talk about that. We did. Okay? He wasn't the fastest guy, but there's some guys that are really good at hitting a gear and getting up to that gear, and Kaden Durham is definitely that. And it's not just, hey, Kaden Durham ran a 10.29 100 meter when he was at Duncanville. No, I'm just telling you, man. I'm just remember this live stream. Today, God, that was a big ad. That was a big ad, okay? So, before we get to this this super chat, I know Brian's the king of the George McDonald fan club. Keep this in mind with Caden. Keep this in mind. His peak can be special, all right? The second thing is I'm never going to say never in this portal era. I'm not going to. I don't think at this time, as much as my LSUism would want to creep in here, I don't think Harlem Berry or Kaden Durham are better backs than Kawan Lacey. I just don't think so. I can't look at you in the face and say that. Even though I think both of them are very good. Berry is so polar opposite those two guys anyway. But you combine Harlem Berry and Kaden Durham's carries from last year, they were both, I believe, barely over 100. Kawan Lacey was in the 270s. All right, so Kawan Lacey this season had the most carries of any SEC running back since 2018. All right. Now, we know this is a case in the NFL. If you have a wide load going into the next season, there's going to be regression. All right. And it normally takes a season down to go back up. Right. So Saquon Barkley, one of the best running back seasons of all time last year, downward trajectory this year. He was still good, but he wasn't as good as he was the year before. Who had a down year last year? It was McCaffrey. All right. Then he went back up. All right. So it's a kind of thing. Okay. In the SEC, that doesn't necessarily happen if you carry a wide load from the year before. You had guys like Larry Roundtree who had like 3 straight years of 180 plus carry seasons. But Kawan Lacey's up there, and we already saw some injuries start to creep in. Like we said a minute ago, injuries are indeed random. But you're also, I don't know any of these specific players' numbers. I would like to think Kawan Lacey is up there, though. He was the best back in the country this year. So you're telling me, hey, Carter, would you take Kawan Lacey, who knows the system and is a better back than Durham and Berry? But I can get Durham and Berry for cheaper? You know what option I'm taking. LSU bias aside, I'm taking those 2 guys. All right. All right. I am really, really, really high on Kaden Durham. Really high. I might go down. I might go burning down, though. I am fine with that, though. By the way, don't know Caden. As a lot of you know, I have some friends that play for the team that have been on the channel, that you IG with from time to time. Never spoken to Caden in my life. Now, he's been on my friends' channels. He did a great interview with Chris Gordy around this time last year. Brian, of these names here, I do think of the most important coaches, Walford is just so much more important than almost every other assistant coach. I don't think any one of us really thinks or cares or worries too much about Charlie Weiss, knowing how good he did without Lane. And now that they're back together, I don't think any of us worries about the play calling. I don't think any of us are truly worried about the tight end room. I'm not worried about the quarterback room, defensive line, linebackers, secondary. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see some regression if you don't have A.J. Halsey and Mansour Delane, but I think we'll be okay there. But it's not even close for me. Walford is just so important. And I do think there are some position coaches where you can kind of mail it in, make a nepotism hire, or make a hire of someone that's not, experienced. But I saw this happen as a fan. I'm a fan of Ashton Jeanty. I love Ashton Jeanty, the running back, obviously, at Boise State. He went to the Raiders. And Pete Carroll got hired by the Raiders. All right. Pete Carroll hired his son to be an NFL offensive line coach for the Raiders. Okay? You cannot play around with offensive line coaches. You just cannot. All right? You've seen serious downturns of big-time programs when they don't have good O-line coaches. All right? Why do you think LSU was willing to put the past in the past to bring James Craig back as an assistant offensive line coach? Not even the because if you're LSU, you're like, hell, we need all the help we can get. Somebody call Alan Faneca. He's busy running marathons and looking skinny. Hell, bring him in. We need as many offensive line gurus. Get Duke Merriweather, Brandon Thorne, Will Blackwell. as just whatever we can do to fix this room. Okay. So Walford is a guy. Okay. Let's go to Martin with a very nice super chat. And Martin, you never actually sent me your reaction video. I gave Martin one of my favorite autos I've ever owned because he was the first one at the Shreveport Card Show. And you can ask Martin. It was a pretty big one. Pretty big one. It's of a player at a position group that we talked about. And thank you, Martin, for coming by. So he says, speaking of Cignetti, your take on the cheating allegations against Indiana. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, there are reputable people. And when I mean reputable, people that just don't do this. It's one thing if old Rose Sports tweets out they got to be cheating, but I'm talking about real people that I respect. All right, that work in college football. And they're like, dude, these guys have got to be cheating. This is by far the lowest talent index ever of any college football national champion. This is by far one of the most well-scouted teams, Indiana. It's not like, Eddie Lacy in Alabama just pulverizing Manti Te'o and Notre Dame, where it's like, yeah, they could have run backwards and beat one and Natty by 50. It's Indiana is all over these routes. I truly do think football now, the way it's played, is so unfreaking believably complex. It's still simple in that go out there, do your job, and execute. But so much of college football is truly mental now. And when you think of the human brain doesn't quit developing until around 25 years of age. And obviously it still develops, but scientists have done the studies on that. If I have a bunch of 23-year-olds, even if the 4- and 5-star kids are more athletic, those 23-year-old guys have played a lot of football and have been under a lot of coaches. They understand leverage. They understand, hey, if they are in this formation, more than likely they're going to run it out, and I'm going to take a chance on it. And, once again, I don't claim to be the best film study analyst on the planet. I love doing it, though. I love doing breakdowns. They are so damn well scouted. But it's also to the point where it's like, it also kind of makes sense. Like Oregon wasn't some bulletproof team. You really pay attention to the Texas Tech game. That had as much to do with bad quarterback play, if anything. Oregon, was handled by Indiana the first time around. Oregon, it took kind of a miracle for them to beat Iowa. They weren't the best eye test team. They beat James Madison in the first round. And then Alabama was extremely flawed. They had no run game. And that was a charged up Cignetti going up against, his former employer. So, yeah, those cheating allegations are out there. I've gone back and forth on how disappointed I would be if they were true. I would be pretty disappointed. I'm a pretty big ethics guy when it comes to football. But, I also think something would have come out by now if they were cheating. All right. Sometimes there's a topic that gets so big that you just kind of discuss. I'll get into it briefly, okay? So there's a Jacksonville Jaguars reporter, Lynn Jones, of a predominantly black newspaper. What was it? Jacksonville Free Press, okay? So she asked a question to Liam Cohen, all right? So you always got to remember, with these kinds of things, press credentials can be difficult, and people are accusing critics of it being racist, that reporters are mad at her, and I haven't seen that be the case because there are plenty of black journalists that I respect that have called her out on this, and I'm on her side. I really am on her side, and I understand that I have a lot of friends that are journalists that have taken heavy offense to what she said. Okay, so basically, she said, Liam, keep your head up. so on and so on. And to the reporters that have criticized her, you are correct. Media has become a little bit more pom-pom waving. I'm a pom-pom waver myself. All right, this is an LSU channel. I also don't really do the credential thing anymore. Like, if someone called me and said, "Hey, we need you to cover a game," I'm not going to go into it decked out in LSU gear. I'll wear a collared T-shirt, report from the sideline. I used to do it for SiriusXM, and then I was in press boxes for ever when I was an LSU student journalist, and even past that. So I understand press conference etiquette and all of that. But I really wish, when it comes to my career, I would have done more fanalist kind of stuff where I didn't take the objective nature of this industry, especially in sports, too seriously. Now, if you're covering the president, different story. Shouldn't do that. All right. If you're covering a war, shouldn't do that. Okay. So I get it. I don't think she was too pom-pom wavy either. Like, it took up like 15, 20 seconds of the presser. Okay. Um, but at the same time, you are there in a working capacity. I do think there's going to be other people that emulate it because it has generated so much positive press for her. So I'm kind of in the middle on it, but I'll tell you this. This is my biggest regret. So I had that mentality when I was at SiriusXM, and SiriusXM is a rights holder. All right. So, the people that I was working with are people that work with some of these big sports teams. Okay. And the thing that I did when I was at XM more than anything else was a soccer channel. I helped start the soccer program there. And I had the opportunity to take a photo with Sir Alex Ferguson. All right. I got to meet Sir Alex Ferguson, got to talk to him. And this is a rare opportunity, right? This is arguably the best soccer coach to ever live. He's the GOAT, Phil Jackson of soccer. And I didn't take a photo with him because I went in there with I'm a journalist and all of that bullshit. And I regret it. I think about it all the time. And I'm not even a Man United fan. I'm a Liverpool fan. So I would just take all those kind of hard journalism lessons kind of stuff when I would go out and meet people. And if I had just been who I am, which is a fan first and then a journalist second, I would be in a better spot. Then what I would also say, as far as what happened here, is I'm glad this woman exposed a lot of these hard, like, by the books, Edward R. Murrow, Grantland Rice, Shirley Povich type of people that think of themselves as just the best sports journalist of all time, when a lot of them are cowards. And what I mean by that is they're afraid to report or say anything negative so they don't piss off the cover that the subject that they actually cover, so they don't burn sources. Okay. And, I hate that. So a lot of these people that call this woman out on this, by the way, this isn't, some CBS News reporter. This is a local Jacksonville reporter. Okay. I'm on her side. And I guarantee you, especially in a smaller market like Jacksonville, a lot of those people that were calling her out, they don't really have a spine. I'm serious. Yeah, and I get that, because Matt Moscona goes to press conferences. I miss going to press conferences. I do. It's a tense environment. There is only so much time, okay, to cover the subject. But it was one question. It really was one question, okay? And sometimes, like, and once again, I like Matt a lot. I really do. By the book, he's not wrong about that. All right. And I will say, like 15 years ago, she might have had her credentials removed because of that. But we're in a different era. All right. Let's go to Sibley. Sam Leavitt has a beast of an operation to recovery from. let's wish him luck because that operational recovery doesn't have a great recovery history. Yeah, you do have to cross your fingers on that, which is why I'm still in favor of bringing in Longstreet. I am. Can we get a refund on Durham? No. I want Kaden Durham on the team. I said out of Milton, Pennsylvania. I'll look at Brian's photo. Please tell me that's you, Brian. Or it looks like, or that would be nice, Brian. I would guess these are your parents. Good evening, Milton, Pennsylvania. I love LSU is back, or I hope LSU is back. Well, you got a few long months. Okay. Let's go to Cliff. If you bring in Longstreet, wouldn't that hurt your recruiting of the 2 elite Louisiana quarterbacks in 2027? No. Here's the thing about quarterbacks in the portal. All right. Let's just say you were to come to me and say, hey, Carter, I'm going to give you $50,000 to guess where Dylan Raiola was going to play football next year. And I'm going to give you 20 schools to choose from. I wouldn't have guessed Oregon. Why would he, as a 2-year starter, want to go to Oregon with Dante Moore potentially having the decision to come back? Without Dante Moore even making his decision, by the way. The thing with quarterbacks is you don't know. That is a scary thing. You do not know. It is, to me, the most under-discussed thing in college football. It's how much you do not know about any one quarterback. It is rarely linear. It is rarely, oh, look, we got Trevor freaking Lawrence. Win us a national championship as a true freshman. Take us to another one as a true sophomore. And be a Heisman finalist your final year. It's rarely like that. Bryce Young, sit behind Mac Jones, you win a Heisman. It's never like that. All right, and take a look at the ones where it actually was kind of linear, where you waited your turn, you stayed at the school. I'm not going to include Nuss there because there was a few more tricks and turns in there, but even Arch, it wasn't pretty early on. I mean, rarely does this stuff kind of just go as according to plan. I think 2 out of every 3 starting quarterbacks last year were transfers. I think that number could be up to 4 out of every 5 next year. So this idea that you say, well, I don't know about getting this guy because it might tick off that guy. I don't give a damn. Bring your ass in and compete. Or what? That's your mama and papa. Oh, that's so good. I love it. Mama and papa. Thank you, Brian. I don't really. I just don't care. What I think will happen though is you will have more quarterbacks say, look, to start my career, I'm going to go somewhere where I can play. That's what I'm going to do in year 1. I'm going to play. Who's giving me snaps? Play. You learn by playing the position. All right, good example. If I was advising any high school quarterback, and I'm talking about any high school quarterback, if you are listening to me in my mid-30 chubby Bruno Mars ass right now, first off, there's better things to be doing in your life. But let's just say you are a high school prospective quarterback, and you are given the opportunity to reclassify. All right. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell you not to do it. And the reason is because snaps matter. They really, really, really do. Quarterback starting snaps is the rarest, scarcest resource we have in terms of playing time in any other sport. All right. Baseball, hey, if you're a Monster Milam, guess what? You can join a Cape Cod league in the offseason, play against better pitchers potentially, and you're still getting good game reps in. Now it's different because you're not in Alec Box Stadium. The pressure is different, but it's lifelike stuff. Right? Basketball, you can get some good runs if you're a collegiate. There's a lot of different off-season runs that you can do, a lot of different ways you can work on your game. Sure, quarterback training has gotten better. Private quarterback tutoring has gotten better. Hell, a lot of kids would probably just get better following Kurt Warner's tweets. There's more resources out there. They got the VR goggles. But nothing can come close to those game reps. So go somewhere where you can play. Go somewhere where you can play. That's what Landon Clark did. He sat a year on the bench, played a full season, showed what he can do. There was 4 games that Landon Clark had under 50% completion percentage. He's now the backup at a top 5 school with a top 5 coach. Play. Give me something my eyes can look at. And I'm going to tell you this, man. Level of competition wasn't great for Landon Clark. I mean, there were some defensive things where I was like, why? But he showed me something. He showed me something. I have not talked about Troy transferred Roman Mothershed, but I do love that name. Okay. I thought I was going to talk more about Devin Harper tonight. I'm just going to let that play out. I thought I was going to talk more about Winnie Watkins on the rare Monday night stream. This is one guy I'm starting to talk myself into a little bit more. Havon Finney, 6'1", 168 out of Cali. We'll go through the portal class today. These are the new additions. Winston Watkins, Sam Leavitt, Roman Mothershed, another wide receiver. Let's talk about Darren Stray, offensive tackle coming over from Kentucky. So what do we know about Darren Stray? Well, he played 18 snaps last year. Paul, look at that, right on cue. That's my mama on Paw. Well, guess what, Brian? Darren Stray is from Paw, Michigan. Tomorrow, I'm honoring my Paw, or my nieces called him Paw. So shout out to Darren Stray. As you can see, pretty good recruiting profile. He was a composite 4-star. Now, that's a lower end 4-star recruit, but he was still a 4-star. 6'7", don't do it. Don't do it. 300 pounds. If you did the 6'7" meme at your house, please go jump into an erupting volcano full of electric eels. Please do it. I got a Miles Brennan reference. Let's go, Gulf Coast. Let's go. I'm going to play this clip from a little bit earlier. Moscona had Winnie Watkins on the show.
Did you visit LSU when you were being recruited out of high school?
No, sir.
Okay, so first time on campus. What was your biggest takeaway?
True, just really like the technology is just like time seems better than Ole Miss. You know, Ole Miss is still like older to me. I would say like everything in the building, just like the computers, the VR setup they got on for the facility is amazing. The treatment, the people, you know, there's just so many resources that you could use that's just 10 times better than a lot of places.
You know, did you visit LSU?
Injected into my veins. Ole Miss, Oxford. You know what's true? Is when you go into Oxford's downtown, just the overall vibe kind of feels like that. It does. It does feel a little bit older. It does feel a little bit more rustic. Hell, your nickname is the Rebels. Okay. The Grove looks older. Winnie Watkins. Now, I will say that Winnie, as far as some of his other media appearances, it was adventurous. Ha, 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 ha. Crazy. Antiquated. Leslie said, could Lane Kiffin sign Eli Holstein? Yeah, I think Eli at this point in his career wants to go somewhere where he can play. And I don't blame him. You know, he was a good quarterback at Pitt. And once again, quarterbacking is so brutal. It's so brutal at the collegiate level. It's scary, honestly. You just don't know. You just don't know because he was there, did good as like the first time full-time starter at Pitt. And out of nowhere, they have a really good true freshman quarterback that stepped in and never looked back. Number 6, his name slips my mind. I was watching him, looking at some Malachi Thomas film study. Kid can play, though. You just never know, dude. You just never know. All right, we'll take a few more here. Once again, I'm pretty hopeful with Devin Harper. That one makes the most sense. Let's go to here. Antonio 8401. You totally lost me about the work ethic. No one in the history of history achieved elite without making out on effort, like never. Oh? Antonio, I got some bad news for you. You're just not right about that. I'm going to tell you about a guy by the name of James Harden. And I'm not saying James Harden didn't work at all. But there are times when James Harden shows up to a game and you're like, might have had a few extra hot dogs before he went out there. And he still drops 30. All right, some guys just have the juice. They just do. Okay. And it's unfair. And to your point, as someone that works very hard, I have been independent. I love what I do. I freaking love all my partners. I don't make a gazillion dollars doing it. I want to be on ESPN. I want to be on SiriusXM, but and I've been at SiriusXM before, but I was more as like a intern producer. I want to be an on-air talent. I want to do all those things. I want to do all of it. I wish it was just about hard work and talent and being entertaining. I wish it was just that. But it's not. So, yeah, there's plenty of people that make it without hard work and effort. Plenty. Yeah, Mason, kid's good, dude. Kid's good. But to follow up, what about in football? So you're talking about football. Yeah, there's some guys that don't work hard. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is biological. It really is. Like you get to a place and you're a hard worker at your previous high school, and you get to college and it's just different. Or your mentals just aren't there. You're not around mom and dad anymore. Everybody around you is as athletic as you are. It's different. JT Lindsay is on his way. So that was something else. I'm glad you brought that up. That's why I need you in here, Leslie. Did anybody sign from Ole Miss? Yeah, JT Lindsay did commit to Oxford today. All right, we'll take a few more here. Once again, next 5 to 10, we'll answer as many as we possibly can. Kind of excited to see Aaron Rodgers play some football today. Aaron Rodgers plays a very fun style of quarterbacking. Okay. Weston Davis is locked in as well. Hopefully a change in coaching will help him. This is crazy to me. I'm not going to pretend that I know who any of these guys are, but I know their names, obviously, but I'm saying, like, I'm not going to break down any of their performances. Look at this. Perfect game, top 100 freshman. LSU's got six. Think about it. The best player might be a true sophomore on the entire team. 6 top 100 freshmen. That's crazy. But that's more than, let's do some math here. 5 out of 100 would be 1 out of 20. So that would be 5%. So 6 out of the top 100 would be 6%. You see that? Manship School of Mass Communication, math going on there. LSU has 6% of the top 100 freshmen. And how many schools are there? There's over 120. You factor in that half of those probably care about baseball. Maybe a little less than that. So you would factor in that maybe 2. There would be about 2 or 3 on every team, and we have 6. Kind of nervous. So I do a comedy show in Arkansas, right where close to where I do Arkansas, right where I went to high school. It's like right down the road from where I went to high school. I used to do a comedy show once every like 4 months at this venue, and they always used to be big. We'd have like a local, and I'm not a big comedian or anything like that, but our smallest crowd was like 60. We would average like 150 people attending per show. So they reached out and they asked me to do it again. And I had my first show in 2 years on Friday night. So I need you guys to wish me luck. I like, It's not that I'm nervous. I feel comfortable enough to go out there and do what I need to do. I'm not doing like a gazillion hours either. But if I bomb, I kind of miss bombing though. Bombing will thicken your skin like none other. What were the other 90? Yeah, tell them, Ronnie. All 100 should have signed at LSU. But yeah, it is official. Sam Leavitt is going to be your starting quarterback. Signed, sealed, delivered. How many more offensive linemen do I think LSU needs? At least no less than 4. Now, it's going to be hard to get to, all right? So far, they have, 3 or 4 committed, 1 JUCO, 3 P4s. So, there you go. All right, y'all. That'll do it for me. Great show tonight. Once again, no live stream tomorrow night. If we're to do a live stream, it'll be during the day, so be on the lookout for that. We will have a Sam Leavitt film study for you guys tomorrow, so we will see you there. Big thanks once again to all our super chatters. Brian, Alexander, Brian again. Martin, a member. Brian as well. And Brian, it is Power Hour LSU. Boom. All right. First person after this live stream that signs up for a membership. I know it's because of my green screen. It kind of messes up. I still want to give out this Quan Alexander card. So if you sign up for a membership or a Patreon ship, I am shipping you this card. Autograph from the great Quan Alexander. Hit the Quan. That was a great song. Let's go.